Hello students, this is the gesture portion of exercise 6 where you're going to choose an object and create some gestures using a big brush. So I'm using this one. This is the Procreate version of this demonstration. You can see my reference image on the side. Just checking the brush, looking at the width. We want to use a wider brush so that when you draw, it's not too thin. And here I go. I'm going to start to try and draw the gesture of this. So what we're trying to create is the overall look of what your object is, whether you choose a teapot, whether you choose a motorcycle, or you choose a llama. Either one, it's up to you, but you're going to find 3 images of each of one of those things, and you're going to make those gesture drawings. So I kind of do a light, quick gesture, and then I kind of go through. I make it a little bit more squatty. I used the selection, squished it just a little bit. I think my first gesture was a little tall. Then I'm going to turn the opacity down, and I'm going to do another drawing on top with maybe a little bit thicker brush to keep this a little bit more loose. And what we're going to do after this is go through and clean it up and draw a nice line drawing on top of this. But we want to have a very loose, very kind of gestural drawing first, so we get a good idea about what our gesture looks like versus the actual image. I do not want you to trace. This is not a tracing exercise. We'll go through and look at tracing a little bit later. I'm actually going to combine these 2 layers together. I think I even rearrange them and then I pinch them together. And then I'll move on to the next one of these where we look at a different version. So instead of a teapot, I'm using coffee makers because I'm trying to use something that you're not going to pick. So there's my first one. Then I'll pull up a new reference here on the left. We'll delete that out of there. We clear it out. Then we select a new image. And I'm going to pick this new coffee percolator. And I'm going to get a slightly different color. Use the same brush. And now I'm going to try and make a gesture sketch of this. So here, it's kind of more like a cone with maybe the top cut off. So I'm kind of starting with that kind of a form, that kind of a shape. There's an ellipse at the top for the lid, a little bit of a handle there, looking at how big is the spout versus how big is the body, how big is the handle versus that. I'm not really trying to do a whole lot of shading or anything. I'm mostly just looking at the gesture. Here I'm using that bigger brush and making it a little bit wider. And then I think I'm going to go back in and use a multiply layer to draw on top of this and maybe be a little bit slightly more precise because I was a little bit loose. And then I can get just a little bit more defined. But the idea of a gesture is to try and get a good guess at the height versus the width. What are the angles? What are, the directions that things go in? That is mostly what you're trying to do, is find a basic guess at what this can or should look like before you move into the next stage, where we'll talk about how do you go through and try to clean up a line and make it look very accurate and make a very tight line drawing that we can work from. So I think I'm just kind of fiddling around a little bit more here. And then we'll pinch that together. That's my second version of this. Then we'll move. I'm going to get another color here, a little blue color. Clear this one out. Pick the next one. This one's a little fancier. It's a lot more tall and oval-like. And so that's the main thing that I'm trying to get you to notice is different teapots, different motorcycles, different llamas, different pictures, different views. They are going to have slight differences, and being able to start to see those differences and represent something like that is going to be good. And to do it without tracing. So I'm setting this up and I've got those created together. Now I'm going to put these two together. I think I do a very quick, like wider brush stroke on here. Doesn't do much to this, I don't think. Yeah. And it's just to kind of give it some other kind of look to it. Very light, kind of give some value to it. Pinch them together. See which one I want to put on top. There's our exercise 3. So for the first step of this, that's all you're going to do. You're going to create 3 different drawings. So here's the gesture number 1 next to the image that I didn't trace it from, that I created it from. Next we have the second one, the LL Bean, kind of like more camp coffee pot percolator. And then the third one is kind of like an electric one, tall and thin. So will you see you for the next step?